Welcome. You're taking time out in the no-flop zone with me, Boti Nagy, and of course the inimitable Joey Wright as we talk all things basketball. But before we do, hit the subscribe button. Come on, we're so close. If we can get to 1,000, it's going to eat into our production costs, and this show can go on perpetually. Good news, I would think.
I would think so.
Yeah. Now, we've had a fair bit of mail because, and I can't believe that I forgot this, but when we were talking last week about Australian NBL teams playing against EuroLeague sides.
Yes.
You've obviously copped it too. Yeah, in 95, the Perth Wildcats in the McDonald's Cup in London beat Real Madrid, 93-86. Real Madrid were bitching and moaning about it afterwards, saying, oh, well, we didn't put our best foot forward. Ricky Grace got 26, James Crawford got 26, and they whooped them, and good.
That is a good win. I had no idea about that until after our viewers started hitting us. You should know. Yeah,
I should have known that. And then the brain started working. It was like the 36ers played a game at Apollo way back when they were Cibona Zagreb came here. Yeah, they played them, and they also played a Latvian team that was in the EuroLeague at the time as well. So there actually have been some games.
So it's happened a few times.
Yeah,
but and the NBL's fared fairly well since.
Yes. Yeah.
So hopefully the same thing happens in Sydney.
Well, Real Madrid is probably still bitching and moaning about it 30 years later. Here's another little aside to that particular game. Trevor Gleeson, at that time, was a backpacker, long hair, backpack. I don't know what else he might have been doing, but he happened to be in London when that game was on. So Wildcats had somebody supporting him.
At least one person.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We got 36ers. Montrezl Harrell.
Huge.
Yep.
Huge. I don't think Montrez got enough credit for how good he was last year, period. His ability to score down on the block is ridiculous. His ability to pass, unbelievable. He's going to have to brush up his defense.
Yes.
He's going to have to play better defense if they want to be there. In the finals, playing that championship, but he can do it. I mean, you can't move that well on offense and not move that well on defense. So something's going on.
Do you think in his big personality, the shimmy and all the extra nonsense that he brought that the fans love, but do you think in doing that you tend to sort of not rate him as highly as a player because people tend to look down on that?
Yeah, I think some of the best because you guys don't like flash.
No, we don't like flash.
Yeah, you don't like any flash, and everything he's about is probably against what most Australian basketball folk are about. But I love it. I think he gets out there, he's having fun, and that's what it's all about. Have fun, and he's found a way to make money at having fun. Why not?
Okay, and him and Bryce will be an interesting combination. You still think they're one big guy short?
I think they're one big guy short, and maybe, Flynn, I think, will be starting there at the point. I mean, I don't really see them with any other option, but you always like to have a good bag-up point as well, a local bag-up point. That's where they may struggle at a little bit.
Well, they've got Iziaih White.
Yeah, I don't see Iziaih as a point, though. I see Iziaih as a two-man who's capable of maybe sharing the point load some, but I don't really see him as a point guard that can direct traffic, move people around and command that respect with the ball.
So is Rasmussen their only real point guard?
Well, I think he's their only real point guard, which I think he did a good enough, had a good enough year last year to build on that and say, he's gonna, and he's playing really well right now, also in the NBL 1. So maybe they're just pushing him more and more to build on that, and if he has a breakthrough year, then they're covered.
Talking about breakthrough years, let's go to South East Melbourne. They've made some substantial changes. They've just announced their import, Omari Moore, a 6'6" point guard, which is big in our league for a 24-year-old.
And it will create an advantage. If he has any type of go about him, which I'm sure he does, he's 6'6" point guard is tough in our league to defend. Milton Doyle, is one of the taller point guards in the league, and he's always had some advantages. But I definitely think they're going to be a contender. I mean, they played so well last year. For them, getting Hurst back is the big deal.
Yeah. Well, haven't heard much on that front lately. I'm just looking, United, they've picked up Finn Delany, they've got Dash Daniels, Fabian Krslovic, and Milton Doyle is being linked to them at the moment. That's starting to fall into place.
Yeah, I think they're, I mean, it's Melbourne United, Dean Vickerman. They're going to be competitive no matter what. They're going to probably be in that top 4 no matter how that lineup balances out. They're going to show up and they'll be a good team next year.
And I know you're going to get excited, so just hold on to your hats, fans that are watching this, because Joey's about to go off. New Zealand have picked up Ruben TeRangi, Rob Lowe, and Iziaih Le'afa. Seriously, they brought three Kiwis home, but this is huge.
Well, I think what you're looking at is you got Dylan there, and they've had a team in New Zealand and Auckland over the last couple of years, but I don't think people in Auckland felt like it was a New Zealand team. So I think their first order of business.
Whoa! You're saying you need some local content. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying they felt like.
Regular viewers.
They felt like. I didn't say I felt like. I said they felt like they may have needed some local guys. I could care less. I just want great players. And I'm probably a few out there better than what they signed.
Okay. Rumours around about the Cairns coaching position. Adam Forde, that he may come back. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he does. That's I actually heard that myself. Someone called me and asked me if they could get a trial with Forde, and they heard he was coming back. But I don't know. I don't know anything about it. They need to hurry up and do something. I mean, them doing nothing and not picking up any free agents and not signing anyone, it's got to hurt. I mean, it's going to be players out there that will be gone. So yeah, they need to find somebody soon.
Well, I think they might be in flux because of these talks about new ownership and what might be going on there. So that that's just one of those wait and see situations. But like I said to you, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago. I didn't think there was any issue between Forde and Cairns. I think he just wanted to explore some other things. Maybe he's done that and thought, oh no, I have another go here. New ownership. Who knows?
Is it new ownership?
Well, that's the word on the street. And, I'm often out on the street, freezing, catching cold. I should be wearing a beanie. That's the word at the minute. But, I mean, that can change. Paddy Mills is being linked to it as he's linked to everything. I don't know why Paddy would want to buy a basketball club. It's a license to lose money despite what they tell you.
I know, and some people probably want Paddy to buy a basketball club and put his name on it. And probably even give him that opportunity without any money up, but it's not a great business venture.
Okay, we've got Japan's B League. This is new, all right? Japan's B League, and B doesn't stand for it stands for basketball league, not for it's a B grade competition. Their B League, their select team is going to play against the NBL select team later this month, June 28 and 29 in Japan, as part of this thing called the Global Invitational. Right, the team representing the NBL will be DJ Mitchell, Kyle Adnam, Angus Glover, Mitch Norton, Sam McDaniel, Mason Peatling, Sunday Detch, Todd Withers, Josh Bannon, Alec Lear and Jason Spurgeon, and they're going to be coached by Simon Mitchell, the original coach of the Phoenix. He's taken that. What do you think of that? We've done China, now we're doing EuroLeague, NBA.
I think it's great. Anytime we can play more games, international games, I think it's great. Just showing people around the world that Australian basketball is real, that they can, they don't even have to have their top tier players to still be competitive. So I think it's an excellent opportunity.
How do you like the Indigenous uniforms? We had this Indigenous round. I know I'm going off script here, but we have an Indigenous round every season where they're designed, the uniforms are designed by Indigenous people and reflect it. And inevitably, those uniforms, to me, look fantastic. I don't know how you feel about them.
Oh, I love them. I mean, any Indigenous art, I love it. Just seeing it anywhere, I'm just fascinated by it. But to see it on the uniforms, some of the best uniforms, I think even the one that the LA 36ers did a couple of years ago was one of the best uniforms I saw. I love the idea. I would like them to extend their gratitude to, as they have to the Indigenous, to also to the Americans that have made contributions to this league as well. I think they should have an American Day. Some of the, I don't think this league is even close to being as good as it is now if the Americans hadn't made the contributions on the court and on the sideline. But it's never been any recognition.
How would you do that? Do we all have to spray paint ourselves orange and do crazy shit with our hair?
No, with that American, we're gonna stay away from. He probably wouldn't even have us. I think they can, do it as you do it.
The thing I raised about the Indigenous uniform is because I like turning on the TV, seeing a game, and knowing instantly what the league is. Like if I turn on an NBA game, I don't have to listen to the commentary or anything. I can immediately recognise from the Boston Celtics, etc. Same with EuroLeague. You turn on EuroLeague, they've got a specific sort of... And the thing I like about the Indigenous uniform is that it's so specific to Australia. Why don't we wear that all the time and then have an American round or have your Marvel, DC comic round, whatever else, other silly things they want to do. But why not have the Indigenous uniform?
Well, they probably can integrate it into their current uniforms fairly easy. If nothing else but a tag or a mark or whatever, but it does look good, and I love what you're wearing.
There you go. Yeah. Dave Buer, I'm still very grateful for this top. Okay, let's move on to some viewers' topics. We've got Andrew Harp, who's telling us that the majority of Perth fans, they won't turn on Bryce Cotton when he comes, especially after the recent podcasts. There is anger in Western Australia, but is firmly directed towards Mark Arena and Danny Mills, the owner and main administrator.
Well, and probably rightfully so. But I don't think, when you go into that arena, even if it's 500 fans, it'll be 500 idiots for sure in Perth. I can guarantee you that.
West Australian audience.
Yes.
We love
it. They know it. I've been down there too often not to think so. It's at least 500 idiots in there.
Right.
So, and those 500 idiots will make themselves known, and it'll be embarrassing because Bryce deserves none but claps in that arena.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, we've got Russ who's written in. He says, I'm 82 and haven't missed a single show. I'm a lot younger than that and I've missed heaps of them, but thanks for tuning in. That's really good. He says, thank you for always delivering a no-nonsense take on basketball. Appreciate that, Russ. Joey, as one of Adelaide's most successful junior coaches, now also expanding to Melbourne, what differences have you noticed in how parents support or undermine the way their kids are coached today, especially in comparison to how you were coached and how your parents respected or didn't respect your coaches when you were coming up?
Well, definitely I wasn't allowed to say anything at all, not even a little bit negative about my coach to my dad. One day I was in the car and I hopped in and he seen I was obviously mad. And he turned around and asked me, said, what's wrong? And I said, my coach. That was the last thing I remember. And I quite a quick little chop across the throat, and just to keep me focused. And then he goes, "Now what was you gonna say?" And that was the last time I ever thought anything negative about my coach or wanted to say anything negative about my coach. We've always, in my era, we were raised to see coaches as like heroes, and those coaches were there for only one reason, was to make us better, and we shouldn't dare question anything else. So that was my mentality on every coach I ever played for, and I really didn't ever have any coach issues as a player because I love the game too much for anyone really to have issues with it. But it has gone too far. Most of the junior parents' goal is not even for the kid to be good at basketball. They need to have enough sound bites to send to the grandma, send to the friends or to the relatives, and throw a clip up in a video of little Johnny or little Sarah playing, and to get what they need to make themselves feel better. I think every single association in Australia should make their parents go through at least some type of seminar to work on, to understand what we're here for and how to do that. And I'm happy to do that for you. But I think they should, and they should go through something where they can sit down. At Transition Sports, at least twice a year, I sit down with all the parents and we just talk over all their issues and what they need and whatever. Most of these junior coaches or association coaches or junior coaches think that like someone like me is in there telling them, nah, your kid should be playing more. No, I'm getting the parents right so it makes it easy for you guys. So I'm telling them probably what you're thinking and how to handle it and how to resolve it without coming back to you and giving you trouble. But it's definitely gotten out of hand right now. And the reason why I do not do teams. I do not do any teams. I do training and development, and everybody keeps saying, why don't you have teams? Why don't you have teams? I don't want to deal with the parents.
How old were you with that incident you described with your father?
I was probably 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
A really good early lesson. So what would you have been playing at that time? Is it high school ball or?
High school ball. We really, you only played high school ball. So you played high school ball, and then the summers was all training and development. And then you come back and try to show what you got during the high school. AAU, the last year of my high school in 1986, it popped up, but AAU wasn't that big.
See, it's interesting because I don't want to use the phrase "in my day," but in my day, I think my mother saw me play twice, and my father, I don't have a clear recollection of him ever coming to a game that I played. But that's how it was. Like, you went and you played your junior basketball. Your parents were busy doing other stuff.
Well, your parents were probably working.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, my dad told me on the way out here on the drive, he goes, I had one goal when I turned 18, and that was to get a job. He said, you get a job at the mill, or you go to the Army, or you get a job at the, refinery somewhere. But he had one goal at 18 to do that, and his parents had one goal.
Yeah.
For him to get a job.
Yeah.
So sports was not a part of the program.
I think too, when I was growing up, there was a lot of immigrants that had come out from Europe after the Second World War, and they were trying to settle in and get on with their own lives.
Right.
And so they didn't. It's not that they didn't care about your. You'd be asked how'd you go, all that sort of stuff, but they weren't coming out and critiquing games or nothing like that. I never had to put up with any of that bullshit.
Well, you probably wanted to, but look,
No.
I definitely wanted the support of my parents, and they were there. Like, my parents were there. Like, my dad worked a regular job at the refinery my senior year, and we played maybe 16 games in Texas, which is about a 3-hour flight from Chicago. And he made about 10 or 12 games that year. Yeah. Like, he would fly down, the refinery would let him off, and he'd fly down to the games and watch the games. Like, they were hugely supportive in my hoop career throughout. And I appreciate it. At the time, it was a little bit annoying. But they never crossed the line, though. Right. I don't think they ever talked to a coach. They never had anything, other than pushing me and telling me I got to be better. I don't think I could ever remember them blaming any of my misfortune on anyone else but me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't feel I missed out because they weren't there, because everyone was getting on with their own thing. In fact, when I was a junior, I recall there was only one mother that was always there. That was Peter Aylai. I don't know if you know Peter Aylai, 36ers player, 1980 Moscow Olympian. Mrs. Aylai was out there. She was the only parent that was consistently out there watching it. And all the kids gravitated towards her. She was like everybody's mother. Anyway, we've had some commentary from a number of people. I'm not going to read them all out, but we talked about Bryce Cotton being the biggest coup, in-season coup between NBL clubs. People have come back with various other ones, like, and I'm going to sort of challenge them. One is when Scott Fisher left the Giants to go to the Perth Wildcats. Yeah, that was big, but he hadn't won 3 championships. He hadn't been the MVP of the league, 5 or 6 times. It wasn't quite the same.
It would have been big, but not of this magnitude.
Same with the Ray Borner leaving North Melbourne to join Illawarra immediately after he became the first Australian to win the MVP. That was a bit of a big deal. Yes, it was. But again, it was an Australian going to another club, and it was 1985. League's only been going 6 years, so it didn't have the Bryce impact. Got another couple, late Darryl Pearce from Adelaide 36ers to North Melbourne, and Al Green from the 36ers to Newcastle.
Both at the end of their careers. Though,
yeah,
right?
And neither was required by the coach at the time was shipping people out and putting young guys in. So Wayne McDaniel to Hobart from Newcastle again. These are all, interesting things at the time, but nothing on the scale of Bryce Cotton. Like, when I heard about any of these at the time, I didn't fall out of my chair. When I heard about Bryce Cotton, I just spat on the floor. Like, what?
Yeah. I was hugely surprised when you heard it, and it came out of nowhere. Yeah. It was so left field, but I knew it had to be true because I had too many calls at one time. So it was like 5, 6, 7 calls all at one time, all falling off the chair.
Yeah.
I think you were one of them.
I was me on the ground going, hey. All right, we've got Kieran Short, who's saying that he's been burnt by the 36ers, but damn, Mitch Creek would be a good fit in this team being built right now.
He would be. He'd be an excellent choice on any team.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. You get a guy that's going to come in and play hard, all day, every day. All the players on the team are going to love him. All the coaches are going to love him. You always want a guy like that in the locker room. So he would fit in very well, but I don't see it happening.
No, there's As Kieran says, there'd be a lot of brown nosing required and a lot of
There's only one person there.
apologies.
There's only one person there that was there when Mitch, when that decision was made, which is Grant Kelly. No one else is there. So Mitch may have a different resolve.
Okay.
But I don't think so.
Yeah. Kieran says Mitch would be welcomed back by 36ers fans with open arms, and I think he's 100% correct. Had that bust up never happened, he would have had his 55 retired up into the rafters at the end of his career in Adelaide.
Yeah, if that bust up never happened, he would definitely have been seen as one of the greatest heroes, because I think he'd have a few championships by now.
Ballaholic, a regular, says, in light of the Wildcats dropping the ball on Bryce, Joey, in your coaching career, can you share someone you wanted signed or re-signed and management blew it?
Yeah. I can't share the names.
Hey, it clearly says, can you share? You said, yeah.
I can share that it has happened, but I can't share when or where because of legal reasons.
Oh, okay. So it's not really a flop. Yeah, you're not flopping out.
Oh, it's not a flop. It's not a flop. It's I just don't want to get sued.
Okay. The triangle offense is always associated with Phil Jackson's NBA championship teams. Is that a system that could work in the NBL?
Teams are running NBL. I think Townsville ran it a couple of years.
Is that Sean Dennis?
No, Stacker.
Stacker
ran it. I think a few other teams have ran it in here. Just for, that offense is a great offense, but it's not an offense that I think would work today. So right now, offense is consistent movement. Back doing those offenses, ball move, player move, ball move, player move. Now it's player movement as the ball's moving. It's more fluid movement because all 5 spots can go inside and out, and they do, and they cut across the lanes more. Where that's a pretty antiquated offense where, you know, ball moves, same as the shuffle. Like, guys are too big and athletic. They can shut down passing lanes now a lot easier. It's different.
And what kind of things go into a coach's contract apart from money and years? What other sort of things go into it?
Coaches' contracts, you'll have bonuses. So you'll have bonuses for semifinals. Typically, you'll have bonuses for finals and bonus for winning a championship. Those are pretty much only bonuses that was in my contracts ever. And then obviously you have your salary layout. Whether you get your salary or not, it's questionable.
Again, we don't want to talk about it for legal reasons. And if you heard that cough off camera, you too can be a member of our studio audience. If you live in Adelaide, just drop us a comment, and if we can fit you in, we will. Okay, Jason says, talking of Flynn Cameron, surely he's going to get buried in the bench here. I don't see this move being good for him. Now, we discussed it earlier. I see him and Bryce as opening together as a starting point guard, sharing that role. DJ running in the 3, a la what Melbourne did with Goulding, Shaley, and Matthew Dellavedova.
Right, and you know their goal. They got 3 guys on the perimeter that can shoot 40%, and Flynn, and DJ and Bryce.
Yeah.
And then they got 2 pretty good guys inside too. Yeah. So that's going to be the goal, is to try to move those guys around and see if you can catch them on the 3-point line. But Flynn is nobody's bench guy. Like, that guy's a baller. Like, if I could see in a couple of years for sure NBA. He's longer than he probably looks on TV.
Yes.
He's determined. When I say determined, he's determined. He's willing to work on his game, and he gets out and plays defense. Yeah. He's going to be a player.
I absolutely love him. There were a couple of games he won for United.
Yeah.
Just coming off the bench and hitting a bunch of threes and making big plays.
And in that situation with the best guards in the league playing in front of you, to still be able to make some noise and come in and do something, that says a lot.
Yes.
So now hand it to the reins. I think he'll do really well.
All right, let's switch our attention to the NBA. We're down to the championship series. Starts on Friday. Oklahoma City versus Indiana Pacers. We're going to
two NBA. What, 2 Aussies in the NBA Finals again?
Well, I don't think Alex Dukas is on the OKC roster, but I haven't seen him in any other games. Whereas Johnny Furphy actually has hit the court for Indiana. But we're going to have the eighth, I think, NBA champion. Can we name him?
Nope.
Come on, Luke Longley. That's easy.
Patty Mills,
Aaron Baines,
Joe Ingles.
No, Joe hasn't won. Andrew Bogut. Oh, Andrew Gaze was on the
Andrew Gaze was on that San Antonio team.
Matthew Dellavedova.
Yep.
Yeah, and Jack White at Denver Nuggets. So that's the 7. We got them. Now, anyone else who wants to say Kyrie Irving is kidding themselves because Kyrie Irving is not Australian, okay? He was
Kyrie Irving?
Born in Melbourne, but he's not Australian.
Kyrie Irving?
Here's a man that has played for the USA at the Olympics and it was MVP of a world championship playing for USA. Don't tell me that he's Australian because he happened to be born in Melbourne. All right?
I'd like to irritate you.
Yeah. you do that just by showing up.
Yeah, I know it. I know it.
All right, who are you picking and how many games?
I'm going to go with Indiana.
Really?
5. Indiana 5.
4-1.
Indiana 5.
Even though OKC's got the benefit of home court.
Yep. I like Indiana's team better as a team. I like
said
them
that
better.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they just move the ball really well. They set good screens for each other. They support one another. You look at the bench interaction. You look at the coach interaction. I just feel like they're a better team. I get a little nervous with Halliburton because he's just such a, he's a teenager.
Yeah.
Playing in a big spotlight. He's having a lot of fun out there, which I can admire and respect. But sometimes you just go, tone it down.
I worry a bit more about his dad.
At least he's not playing.
Okay, we'll be back in just a moment. We're back and we're talking Coach's Corner. Coach, give me a corner.
Well, the question, and this is for you, being an ex-journal, current journal, has the marketing of sport compromised the integrity of sport?
Oh, that's a really good question. That is an excellent question, and I would have to say 100% yes, it has.
It has.
Yeah, because the sort of journalist I was, like today, let's just switch to AFL for an example. For a few years, Alistair Clarkson, after he had coached Hawthorn, was not coaching football. And any time a job came up, Stuart Dew's going to get the sack at Gold Coast, or somebody's going out at Essendon, or whatever the job was, his name was always tossed up. Alistair Clarkson will be looking at. They'll be looking at Alistair Clarkson. That's today's world. In my world, I would have rung Alistair Clarkson and said, Alistair, are you interested in the Gold Coast job? No. Okay. And that's it. I'd have ruled it out. Whereas today, it's easier to not go to a source of something, but just speculate, make shit up, because that happens too.
Yeah.
And then try and pass it off as reality. So, yeah, and a lot of that is to do with sports marketing. There's a lot of opportunity for journalists to sort of go on trips and get a higher profile through being involved with the league. It suits them to only say good things.
Right.
And in what world is everything good? I mean, in what world is that happening? Like, we live in a world where we mention the American president or people being bombed, or there's a real world out there, and then there's the one that we're presented with. And the one that we're being presented with doesn't really explore any of the negatives. Not that that's where we want to live, but you can't just be walking around with rose-colored glasses all the time.
Well, we had scenarios later in my coaching career where I was told to keep players who had high social media influence, had a lot of followers, and why we should keep them and why we shouldn't. And I just never ever understood that or subscribed to it at all whatsoever. For me, if it's one thing that gets in the way of that game being settled by the coaches and the players, so if it's anything that changes the outcome of that game, that's other than the coaches and the players, I can't subscribe to. Like, I couldn't do it. And hence the reason why I don't want to coach anymore, because it's a lot more going on than just my ability to train and develop my player and trick you on the night for 2 hours. It's so much more that's influencing the outcome of games. I just don't want to be involved with it.
Joey used the word subscribe, which reminds me, don't forget to subscribe.